Hi, my name is Heeyoung from Facebook, and I'm going to present my work toward diverse precondition generation. And this work was done when I was in Stony Brook University. First, let's define what precondition relation is. We assume that an event in text is any word that describes occurrence, action, process, or event state. And we define a precondition event as either resulting in a state necessary for an event to happen, or denotes a precondition state by itself. Let's take a look at a simple example. The target event, or a given event here, is Obama is departing from Hawaii. Obama should be in Hawaii first if he leaves Hawaii. Then precondition events can be any events that possibly yield this state as a result. Thus, these two events can be precondition events for this target event. And here's our task. Given a target event, can we generate multiple diverse precondition events? Precondition generation task can be formulated as one-to-many task naturally, as you can see in this example. The precondition of I open the door could be I approach the door, I turn the key in the door, or I push the door. But directly decoding multiple outputs with a sequence-to-sequence model is not enough. If we use the beam search decoding and take the entire beam outputs, then we would have almost identical results like these. Or, if we use a simple sampling method and take some high probability events, we might get semantically similar outputs. So how can you get one-to-many generation from a standard sequence-to-sequence model? It might require a decoding strategy for diverse outputs and training data of multiple preconditions per target event. However, the second part, the data is quite hard to get, because this will require a lot of human resources like manual annotations. So what can you do about generating diverse preconditions? As one solution, we thought about using control information to guide our model to generate diverse responses. The model will take a control information as an input and will be guided to generate different preconditions. But what control information should we use for this? We set precondition event triggers as control information, which should be the main theme of generated responses. As the result, our generation model is trained to include those events in its generated text, like this. Now let's get into more details. This is the whole pipeline of our model, called the DEEP model, which stands for Diverse Precondition Model. This is a three-stage generation system that consists of event sampler, candidate generator, and post-processor. The first stage is the event sampler. This is the stage for contributing the diversity. The event sampler generates possible precondition event triggers given a target event, and then take top 100 event triggers based on their decoding probabilities. We use the fine-tuned GPT-2 model for this, and training data is the same as those used for the candidate generator, but we only use event trigger pairs here. The second stage is candidate generator. The candidate generator generates precondition text using the target event and sampled events from the first stage. The sampled event trigger works as control information here, which guides the model to generate text with the provided events. We also used fine-tuned GPT-2 model here. This is the stage where the model actually generates precondition text. The last stage of deep model is the post-processor, which consists of two subcomponents, precondition re-ranker and similarity filter. The stage is to improve the quality of precondition text in terms of precondition knowledge as well as diversity. The first component is precondition re-ranker. To improve the quality of generated text in terms of precondition, we re-rank the generated outputs based on their precondition scores. We use the precondition classifier to score each precondition text, and this process will allow more plausible precondition outputs to be placed in higher rank. Our precondition classifier has 64.7 precision and 81.0 recall. This example shows the expected behavior of our ranker. As a result of our ranking, non-precondition text will be placed in lower rank. The next step is similarity filter. The purpose of this step is to improve the quality of diversity by filtering out semantically similar precondition text. We use cosine similarity of sentence vectors from the CLS token representation from the precondition classifier. We iteratively filter out similar outputs from the top because this list is already ordered by precondition score. As the result, these two grade precondition text will be removed. And the final output will look like this. Recap, our DIM model is a three-stage model, which are composed of event sampler, candidate generator, and post-processor. Now let's move on to experimental setup. For dataset, we use Pico dataset to train our event sampler and candidate generator. It contains about 10,000 precondition relations. To improve the generation quality, we first pre-trained our model on temporally related events. These events are extracted from New York Times corpus using Cable, which is an automated event ordering system. We use 900,000 instances for pre-training. For comparison purpose, we generated 10 preconditions per target event. We have two baseline models. One is beam search decoding model, where the beam size is 10. Another is repetition penalized sampling, or RPS model. The RPS model generates preconditions based on sampling method with iteration. Here, the number of iteration is 10. The RPS model maintains a list of generated event triggers from the previous iterations, and discount their probabilities when generating event trigger in the next iteration with this equation. As the result, event triggers are already used in the previous generation are less likely to be sampled in the next iteration. For evaluation metrics, we use self-blue and self-blurred scores. Both blue and blurred score measure similarities between a pair of text. Blue is calculated based on n-gram lexical overlap. Blurred is computed using trained BERT model. So these equations measure the average similarity scores of all pairs of generated preconditions. In other words, lower scores imply more diverse generations. Here's the result of automatic evaluation. In both metrics, DEEP and RPS generate more diverse output than beam search decoder. We can see RPS is slightly better than DEEP model, and when comparing the scores along the generation length, DEEP is comparable to RPS in shorter preconditions, and RPS produces more diverse outputs when generated text gets longer. But again, these metrics only measure how the generated texts are dissimilar to each other. Thus, to verify the quality of generated preconditions, we did manual evaluation. We evaluated 960 preconditions with 8 annotators, and these annotators are trained graduate students. We have two evaluation metrics. One is the score for a single precondition text from 0 to 2. 0 is not a precondition, 1 is maybe, and 2 is definitely a precondition. And another is a target event score, or we call it win. A model gets 1 point if the sum of 10 precondition scores is higher than the sum of from another. Here's the result of a manual quality evaluation in both metrics. DEEP model gets higher scores than RPS. When considering the number of wins, the gap is huge, and we can see the result of average score is statistically significant. And this chart shows the number of wins along the generation length. Deep produces better preconditions across most output lengths, but it is significantly better than RPS for longer outputs. Now I'll show some generation examples. The target event is blank to maintain below market rents. Each model is asked to fill this blank with a possible precondition of the event maintained. When using beam search decoder, as you can see, most of the output texts are identical, and only gray color parts are different. But for RPS and deep model, they generate more diverse text, and here, green colors are valid precondition, red ones for those are not. And we found that RPS introduced a lot of relevant information to the input text, and this might boost the diversity score in the automatic evaluation. Whereas deep model generates more simpler but still effective outputs, like the city has reached a deal to maintain below market rent, the city will use the money to maintain below market rents, or the city moved its building to maintain below market rents. For the conclusion, we propose a model that generates diverse preconditions via multi-stage process and use the event sampler to overcome the lack of diversity examples, and use event triggers as automatic generated control information that guides the model to generate diverse responses. Thank you for watching my talk, and you can find more examples and error analysis in our paper, and the code and data are available from our project page. Thank you.